four-star generals, special helicopters, special tomographic capabilities. It's like basically CAT scanning, being able to CAT scan the levels beneath you. And when he told me how far they can go down underground to see what's underground, it just blew my mind. And I'll just say this, a 10-story building underground, a 20-story building underground, no big deal. And he said that he had another general on board that he obviously did not supersede, my friend the general in rank. And when they flew out there and he was picking up the guillotines underground, the general who was at Fort Hood, my friend was stationed at a different place, basically said, well, you're not cleared to see this. And my friend the general said, and you're not cleared to see my instruments whatsoever. And obviously a 4-star outranks the 3-star. So they got in a bit of a scuffle, but he said, I can tell you, Steve, I saw the execution chambers. Now listen, I'm not making this up. You think this is all BS? Take it to the Lord in prayer. And he said there were guillotines in aisles, and they were set up. So the ones that, are set up, and then Fort Huachuca, there are people that have broken ranks in the military. So, Doug, all I can say to you is this. We are seeing the full functionality of the getting back. I asked the most evil man in the world I ever interviewed once, I said, what's the deal with all you guys and cutting people's heads off? And basically it goes back to the idea of, in the Garden of Eden, the serpent's head being crushed, obviously by the heel, and the thing that's interesting of Jesus is that they want payback. This is the same reason why they honor the number 33. Jesus was 33. Some people say 33 and a half, close enough for me. And the point is that when Jesus laid down his life, the devil rejoiced. And I think someday we need to do a show on what happened to Jesus after he gave up his life on the Calvary. So before he ascended, he descended. But that's neither here nor there for tonight. No, I mean, it's obviously here, but that's not the topic of tonight. So what's really amazing to me is you're watching right before your eyes the rise of the caliphate. That is the global control of the entire world by Islam. No modifiers in front of it. You're also watching the amazing stupidity of provocateurs trying to basically encircle Russia, and Russia saying, I think Putin's exact words were, playtime is over today. Some people say, well, within a half an hour, I've calculated distance. I know some of the velocities of the Soviet Russian missiles, and bottom line is we're talking 15 to 18 minutes. Those of you who are in the military know that Russia has reserved first nuclear strike use. So when they do that, they have got to basically make a move and make it quickly. So the only ones who have to gain by global nuclear war, believe it or not, is the Caliphate of Islam, because they believe that their Mahdi can only return after a global conflagration. So is it so far-fetched? A Muslim dynasty within the United States government providing him who they see as the new caliph of global Islam with the weapons and setting this whole thing up? I don't believe so. I think that's what we're watching. So, again, I think it's one of the most critical issues right now in the world. If those of you want to learn about nuclear weapons, you can just type in U.S. nuclear weapons in Wikipedia, or you can go on my website, stevequayle.com, which brings me to another issue. The temperature in the United States, we are seeing the atmosphere microwaved. Remember this, ladies and gentlemen. Drought leads to famine. Famine leads to disease. The time of being able to even look at normalcy in shipping, in getting food, is running out. The ability to get good food that hasn't been basically test-tubized, bastardized beans, and everything else that goes along, gross grains. The thing that's happening is that slowly but surely, the American diet is being absolutely directed towards that which will only engender death. So I encourage you, you can go on my website, go to Numana Foods, and they're the one company. And look, here's why I'm giving an infomercial. I cannot believe the amount of people, Doug, that don't get it. They don't understand the basic lines of supply. They don't understand how it gets from the fields, the trucks, pretty much take it to the shelves of the supermarkets. We're even seeing selective places in the country having difficulty getting certain foodstuffs. Wouldn't you happen to know those are the bastions of freedom? So, look, starving your enemy into submission. Stalin did it to the Ukraine. We've watched it all along through the history repeat itself over and over again, and yet the Americans still think that, as long as the golden arches are golden and, whatever name of the food store has got, the magic button as they press on their computer, and voila, food shows up in the shelf, produce in the produce thing, and everything becomes fine. They consider it a video game reset. Just one problem with the video game reset. When you unplug the video game, there's no reset. They're getting ready to unplug the food and absolutely start recognizing the basics of preparation always begin with food. Go ahead, Dave.
You're absolutely right. Food, water will do you in faster than anything. But I also believe that we can prepare, and Steve, I want to give you a plug here because it's so valuable. What I tell my listeners every Sunday is convert your soon-to-be worthless cash into precious metals, because there are a lot of us that are going to survive the initial whatever comes, and you're going to want to have some form of currency or something that will be accepted like currency when you come out of it. So Steve's Renaissance Precious Metals is where I choose to do business, and I try to encourage my listeners to do the same thing. And I would add one more mineral to that too, and that would be lead. Because when holy hell breaks out, and I do believe it's possible that we're going to be involved in the Civil War. In fact, I think it's more than possible. I think it's likely that they're going to cordon off the cities. This is what I've been told by my sources, and they're going to let us fight it out for about 6 months. You're going to have to defend your own property. And we take classes at Shooter's World, and I would recommend that people get trained, and you've got to be tactical. And these are the times that we live in. I'm sorry to say this. I'm not advocating for violence, but the Bible allows for self-defense. And if you think because you got food and water you're going to be respected, think again. You're going to be a target. So I agree with what you're saying, Steve, about the preparation, and people need to do it now. Absolutely. And Numana is a great way to go with the food. And I recommend that people have a year to 2 years food for each individual in their family. And that's every individual in your family. And then you better have seeds. Because if you have a protracted conflict, then you're going to be able to have to plant seeds. So you need to become self-sufficient. In fact, actually, what you should be doing also is practicing being off the grid for a weekend. Make it a family activity. Because when this goes down, if we have a civil war in this country, you will lose your power. They will cut power. And I'll tell you, it's a whole different world when you've got to operate without power. So I would really encourage people to say, okay, the likelihood is the economy is going to crash. The Baltic Dry Index, which is the best measure of international trade, is near zero. Nothing is moving. I don't know what's keeping this economy afloat right now. I think they're just trying to get through the election, maybe the inauguration. But it's going to crash. I agree with Gerald Celente. It's any day. We could wake up tomorrow and there'd be a bank holiday. I mean, it could happen that quickly. I mean, Steve, what do you think? Do you think it could go that quickly?
Well, I do, and here's the deal. I think they're going to do a Band-Aid, and this is what Ross Powell has talked about, Doug, on your show. He's one of your sponsors also, is that the litigation and legislation is already in place to take everyone's 401, IRA, all their KEO, in essence, defined benefit plan, just to simply take it and issue a government bond in its place. Now, Ross, and basically as a company, and this is critical, every day I get emails, Dave, I'm sure you do too. I have 800,000, I have 200,000, I have 20,000 in my IRA and Keogh. And obviously there are people that don't have IRAs and Keoghs. My recommendation right off the top is anything that you can spare, don't worry about buying gold or silver if it's under $1,000. Buy food, get Campbell's, and I know there's very little nutrition. Go get Progresso or some of the supposed organic soups, but get soups, get something that you can eat out of a can if you have to. But Ross Powell's got a company named Survival 401k, and Ross has been instrumental in telling people how they can get control. Most people believe if they have an IRA, Keogh, 401k, that it has to be left with a third-party custodian. That's not true. So, ladies and gentlemen, the government already plans to steal the $18-19 trillion that's in that fund to cover the budget deficit so they can buy some more time. And, Dave, you and I have talked about this on your show. People don't get it. When they say, well, they can't do that, they've already done it. The legislation already exists. Dave, you brought up a point that's really critical. Christians, you're in the sniper scope for the New World Order. What are you going to do? What am I going to do? What are we going to do when basically without the universal whatever it is, the mark of the beast, the technology already exists. It's just the implementation. I tell everybody it will be mandatory, but it will also be voluntary. It's simple. You don't take it. You don't buy, rent, sell, or trade. That's what the Bible says. Well, how will God feed us? Supernaturally. How will God lead us? Supernaturally. But there's too much history to prove that those who had gold and silver, why do you think they keep hammering the prices? Dave, it's interesting. Every time they hammer the spot prices down, more gold and silver, physical, goes into some very strong hands. And I can tell you point blank, the day will come, I don't know if it's 3 months, 6 months, but the day will come when people will see that it's blown up and they won't be able to get it. Silver is for barter, gold is for savings. People ask me one question. I want to answer this. I want to be clear. How will I use it to go to the supermarket and buy something? Number one, there won't be supermarket. There will only be government, the equivalent of PXs. You won't go there. You'll be bartering with people who do go there and who understand what silver and gold is worth. What happens if they make it illegal? Here's my answer to that. You're illegal. Everything you have, everything you are. Remember, Dave, we screamed about National Defense Authorization, 1867? Yeah. And remember when we screamed about all the things that they can do under executive orders, and you've run so many stories. Ladies and gentlemen, Dave doesn't do this just to say, gee, what can I write about? The point is there's a theme to what he writes. There's a theme to what we talk about on this show. And the most important thing to remember is this. Again, for every Christian out there, I can only address them because this is where the specific Bible verse was geared to, is that God says his people are destroyed for lack of knowledge because they reject it. And that's the bottom line. And you can't get any more bottom than the bottom line. So that's why, I've chosen to overuse that statement because they just absolutely still don't get it. And the haves will become the absolute targets of the have-nots. And if you think rifle hunters, archery hunters are going to go out and get that buck or the doe, or you're going to go get an elk in the high country, you think again, the plan of these evil, demonic monsters is to kill all of the game off in the woods. We saw that with the test of CJD and chronic wasting disease in Wyoming. We saw it. We've seen it, whirling disease in the fish. We've seen bubonic plague that very few people know about that's been intentionally introduced into groundhogs, squirrels, gopher populations. We've heard about anthrax being absolutely infecting specific herds in Montana, only to have black ops guys come in and kill the herds, dig big ditches, put the carcasses in and try and contain it. So the point is that just because everything seems somewhat normal, look at Pokemon. I'm not going into that in detail, but look at the mass mind control of a virtual herd of humans being stampeded to do the most insane and stupid stuff in the world. And everybody, Dave, still doesn't get it, that is the absolute implementation of a Central Intelligence Agency and others testing their programming, so when, you become the man they poke, there's no reset on that either.